Just saying. Hours. It didn't take them long, the left, to turn this absolute horrendous tragedy of this train Amtrak derailment to start trying to make political hay out of it. This is mostly from the left. This is just shameful. It is. I know. Rahm Emanuel said you never let a good crisis go to waste, but there are some things that you gotta just let go because it is absolutely shameful when you try to make political hay out of it. So far, from what I understand and what I know, what I've read, that the death toll stands at 7. Now, I haven't seen any news reports yet. Nothing has come across my phone yet that has increased that number, but it looks like it's standing at 7, and it may stay there. Hopefully it does. Don't want to see any more loss of life out of this. But here's the problem. The train itself was going into a bend that was posted, had a speed limit posted of 50 miles per hour. Now, you have to understand, trains have speed limits just like automobiles on paved roads. Trains have speed limits, and they have to have speed limits because of things like, curves, turns, rail yards and switchbacks and populated areas and things like that. There are speed limits, and they have, speed limits posted. And there was a 50 mile per hour where this derailment happened on this particular curve. It was a posted speed limit of 50 miles per hour. Evidently, depending on the report that you read, the train was going 106 or 107 miles per hour, more than double the speed limit. Well, let me tell you something. You get trains doing that kind of speed. Even a car that takes a curve for 50 miles per hour doing 100 miles per hour is not going to make that curve. Even the good old super duper, super souped up, wonderful $250,000 to $500,000 sports cars are not going to be able to do that. Either they're going to flip or they're going to leave the road. It's just not, the physics is not there. We haven't learned anti-gravity turns yet. I know some people out there believe in UFOs, and UFOs can do 90-degree turns in a heartbeat at high speeds. Well, we haven't learned how to do anti-gravity turns like that yet, because basically you'd need to have anti-gravity in order to extinguish the physics of momentum. And I think you need more than because even if you're in space and you're going in a certain direction, it doesn't. You can't just automatically change direction without there being some consequence. So we haven't learned how to do to bend the laws of physics and the laws of momentum, velocity and momentum. We haven't learned how to bend those yet and break those rules, especially with a train. And this train was doing twice the speed limit. So from what I'm reading, from the reports that I've been getting and seeing and reading, more than twice. Now I don't know if the engineer fell asleep or was looking at his cell phone or what have you. We hear stuff like that all the time. I don't know, but we do know that it was going too fast, which is the reason for the derailment, the injury, and death and destruction. Now, according to this Hot Air article, hours after tragic train derailment, MSNBC ghoulishly uses it to advance a political agenda. That's right, because they were looking at hey, yeah, China spends like $128 billion on rails, and we spend less than $2 billion. So, what has that got to do? What we've also learned is that there was equipment, safety equipment, that was already available that should have been installed on this train that wasn't installed. So evidently we already had it. We had the technology to prevent this, but our government, the same government that's now in charge of our health care, didn't follow through. They didn't follow through on this. So, but now you have MSNBC out there running around and talking about, let's just make this a political thing, a political agenda, so we can get our agenda passed. But in an awful, never let a crisis go to waste. In the genre of never let a crisis go to waste, from current Chicago mayor and former White House chief of staff Rahm Emanuel, MSNBC, MS Mess, you could add tragedy to the list of events that should be exploited for their maximum political value. I mean, this is disgusting. And this is from MS Mess. But anyway, in an awful tragedy, one particularly acute for New York City and Washington, D.C. residents, an Amtrak train derailed Tuesday night, resulting in over 140 injuries and at least 7 deaths so far. Bodies were still being collected when the host and guest of MSNBC's Morning Joe appeared convinced that this tragedy could have been averted had the Congress passed massive spending measures aimed at repairing what Barack Obama contends is America's crumbling infrastructure. I thought we already spent billions of dollars upgrading Amtrak. And as a matter of fact, don't we have high-speed rail on Amtrak now? Well, you don't get high-speed rail unless you do what? Upgrade it. You got to make it so it can handle the train and the speeds. So it's not crumbling. It was updated and upgraded. Look, if it wasn't, why the hell did they put a train that could do 100 miles per hour on it? I know that's a logical question to ask, and you're probably saying, Rod, you got to stop being logical for 5 seconds. No, I'm not going to stop being logical. I'm going to keep pounding away at logical questions so I can get logical answers. Because that's the right question to ask, and it's the right thing to wonder. Well, if we have, if our rail infrastructure is so feeble and it's crumbling like that, how do you put a train and allow it to go 100 miles per hour? Forget the fact that it was trying to take a 50 mile per hour curve at 106 or 107. Let's just say it was a straightaway. But if our infrastructure is crumbling, how is the crumbling rail system going to be able to handle the pressure of a heavy train going that fast? I don't know. But MSNBC is saying, well, this is due to lack of infrastructure spending. Well, isn't that what stimulus and son of stimulus and grandson of stimulus is supposed to do? That's what they said. We have all these shovel-ready jobs. All we need to do is just pay for them. And we'll have all these shovel-ready jobs. Now, in a compelling post, National Review's Jonah Goldberg unloaded on the unfounded self-assuredness and the factually inaccurate assertions that characterize this assessment. What's more, Jonah addressed the hideously ghoulish desire displayed this morning by these media figures to advance a political agenda on the heels of a bloody tragedy while they were still gathering the bodies. Think about that. They were out there speculating that the reason this tragedy happened is because we're not spending enough tax dollars. Our taxes are not high enough. We're not taxing people enough, so we could spend more tax dollars on upgrading and repairing and replacing our crumbling infrastructure, all of which, we've already put trillions towards fixing it. Evidently, I guess those previous trillions weren't enough, huh? Well, this is what MSNBC is trying to put forth to you. They're saying, oh, no. Not enough. Basically, there's this obsession, particularly on the East Coast, with moving lots of Americans around by train. Now, they're stating here in the article that the sophisticated Europeans do that, so we should too. There's so much know-nothingism at work here. In America, we move stuff, freight, by rail, and people by road and by plane. In Europe, they do it the other way around. America's freight rail system is the best in the world, which is why Warren Buffett keeps investing in it. So they got to bring in Warren Buffett, billionaire. He keeps investing in rails. Now, the reason for this arrangement have to do with population density, geography, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I'm not saying our passenger rail system couldn't be better, particularly in the Northeast, but this idea that we're falling behind China on infrastructure is ridiculous just because the Morning Joe crowd doesn't care about or see the freight rail system. It doesn't mean we should obviously blow it up to turn it into a passenger rail system. No, that's the other thing. Our rail system, although it is not high speed all over the place, for moving freight and keeping trucks off the road and being efficient at moving goods across this country, is the best on the planet. I mean, we got a lot of rail infrastructure in this country because our country's so big, and we've got so much country that is away from a seaport. The interior of the country has to get their goods and services from seaports on either side of the country. Well, rails bring it to them. And it does it a lot more efficiently, and they can move more of it at one time for less fuel than trucks. Now, yeah, our roads are stuffed with tractor trailers. We got a lot of trucks on the road. We do. And one of the reasons is that once you get to a rail station or depot or yard, that stuff has got to be distributed because rails don't drive up to or roll up to a supermarket or a mall. So trucks got to take it from the rail to the stores. And there's a lot of stuff in between. It's got to go to a distribution center and then that kind of stuff. But we have a system that is extremely efficient. We have an extremely efficient people moving system. And it does, you could say what you want, but it doesn't include moving people by rail. I'm sorry, it doesn't. And I guess that's, something that these people just do not like, that we can't move people like they do in Europe. Well, Europe is a little bit different. It's not the same as the United States. The cities are much older. I mean, the countries are older, but the cities are much older. And the infrastructure is actually older. So it makes sense for them to be able to move people from, and not to mention because they're all different countries, it's easier to build a rail than it is to build a road. So it makes more sense for them. You can't tell these liberal idiots all that kind of stuff. But no, they're going to be out there trying to get their point across. They're going to try to get their point across by trying to capitalize on a tragedy. And to do it in such a manner is just absolutely filthy disgusting. But this is, of course, what you get from the left. Now, if Fox News did this, man, would the left be irate.